the wedding. So I hope this situation is not going to mess things up between me and her.
That is a woman on her honeymoon asking the man she just married for a post-nup, not a prenup, not a premarital conversation about finances, a post-nup, which is the prenup you ask for after the wedding, once you have, as one would say, noticed things. And she is not embarrassed. She is not nervous. She is fully composed across a hotel breakfast table, explaining that the contract needs a retrofit.
I'm also worried about meeting his family.
Welcome to Kirwan.
Oh, thank you. I've been married once. I have 2 children by 2 different fathers.
And that is the groom, not even mid-sentence into the post-nup conversation, asking in plain, clear English, which is notable because Reddit insists his English is terrible, why his wife is yelling. She is not, from what we can tell, yelling. She is talking in Memphis Smith standard indoor volume, which happens to be 6 decibels louder than the ambient jet engine. That is the marriage. Those 2 clips. You can go home now.
I just landed in Tunisia, where I met my fiance Hamza for the first time in person. But after 8 months of video chatting, meeting Hamza, for, face to face.
Let me set the table. Memphis Smith, 34, single mom of 2, Michigan, formerly an ICU nurse. Hamza Moknii, introduced to the audience as 28, Tunisian, handsome in the way young men are handsome in countries where they cannot yet afford to be picky about who is looking at them. They meet online. They meet in person for the first time when Memphis flies to Tunisia. They get married almost immediately. They go on a honeymoon. She gets pregnant on the honeymoon. She learns shortly after that Hamza is not 28. Hamza is 26. The groom, on his own wedding day, lied about his age by 2 years.
So you told me a lie.
Two years. Reddit loves to fixate on the number, and Reddit is correct to do so because the number is not the point. The lie is the point. The lie is the foundational document. Hamza, on the biggest day of a legal contract he is signing, lies about his age, which is trivially verifiable, to a woman who will find out approximately the next time he has to fill out a form. Which means he lied knowing he would be caught. Which means the lie was never meant to deceive her long term. The lie was meant to make it through the ceremony. After that, discovery was the wife's problem.
Mom's rules, because she could really make or break my marriage. Time for you to go. Goodbye.
And now let's run the same analysis on Memphis, because fair is fair. Memphis presents herself in the initial episodes of the season as doing well, nurse, single mother, homeowner, financially stable, independent, a catch. The Tunisian housing stock she is about to be living in, she implies, will be significantly upgraded by her American situation. That is the pitch. That is what Hamza's family thinks they are getting. When Memphis actually arrives with Hamza in America, she is living with her ex-boyfriend, not as roommates, in his house, because her financial situation is, to use a clinical term, aspirational.
Why sleep house X?
I was feeling kind of down, and he said that I could stay at his house, so I spent 4 nights at his house, but nothing happened sexually.
The bride has been living with her ex. The groom has been lying about his age. These are 2 people who sold each other identical counterfeit watches and then fought about whose was the more convincing fake.
I stayed at my ex-husband's house.
And the honeymoon, by the way, the honeymoon is an entire genre unto itself. Because in those first days of the marriage, the show lets Hamza and Memphis be alone in a room together for the first extended stretch of their relationship. Period. They had met in person exactly once before this. They had been, until this moment, primarily a text message situation with a film crew. And the moment they are physically together, without cameras running during dinner, the compatibility math starts resolving in public. The post-nup arrives, the yelling arrives, the pregnancy arrives, all in roughly 7 days. That is not a honeymoon. That is a controlled experiment in what happens when two strangers are forced to produce a 3-year plan while jet-lagged.
Where's mother at your house?
Yes, my mother and sister at house. You are at house.
Meanwhile, Hamza's mother, a woman whose facial expressions alone are worth a Fulbright grant, watches this American ex-nurse move her son around like a piece of furniture and says, in Arabic, on camera, several things that the subtitles do not fully capture. Hamza's mother clocks the whole operation in under 12 hours. She knows. She knew at the airport. The mothers always know. The mothers are the only recurring cast members on this franchise who have a consistent read on every situation, and the show refuses to cast them as the protagonists because doing so would collapse the entire premise in one edit. Now pivot. Because the Reddit consensus on Memphis and Hamza is overwhelmingly, Hamza is a green card scammer. And look, Hamza may well be. I'm not here to exonerate Hamza. The Instagram affair, the mother still in Tunisia, the speed of the engagement, the speed of the baby, the custody drama, the evidence stacked is not friendly. But the Reddit consensus is also simultaneously unable to hold the second thought, which is that Memphis was not the blameless victim of a passport scheme. Memphis was running her own scheme in the other direction. And this is the pattern I want to name. Because I have been watching this franchise for years and I have seen this exact dynamic play out with Angela Deem, with Lisa Ham, with Jenny Slatton, with Debbie Johnson. The older American woman purchases a younger foreign man as a fix for a life that is not working storyline. It is the template. It is the entire genre subcategory.
Baby, you are my happiness.
And Memphis ran the template faithfully. The divorced nurse with 2 kids flies to Tunisia, marries a handsome younger man in a country she has to Wikipedia, gets pregnant within a week, brings him to America, discovers the cultural gap is not, as she had imagined, cute, discovers the baby does not fix the loneliness because the baby is loneliness with a crib, files for divorce, goes on Instagram.
They have been personally negatively impacted. There isn't enough awareness and support for individuals who are going through the complexities of immigration marriage fraud. That is why marriage awareness is so important.
And this is where Memphis does the thing Angela could never quite pull off. Because Angela was too loud. Angela was too much herself. Angela kept escalating publicly. And the fans saw the escalation and eventually stopped reading her as a sympathetic buyer and started reading her as a cartoon. Memphis did not make that mistake. Memphis went on Instagram in November 2023 and accused Hamza in a measured, almost legal-sounding tone of immigration marriage fraud. That is a phrase you use when you have spoken to a lawyer. That is a phrase you post when you are ready for the repost. And the fan base, this is the part that fascinates me, the fan base bought it. Reddit flipped. The narrative flipped. Memphis, who had weeks earlier been a punchline on the sub, was now a survivor, a woman with a story, a woman who had been deceived. The post-nup, forgotten. The ex-boyfriend's house, forgotten. The inflated assets, forgotten. The volume, forgiven. Memphis got the edit Angela had been chasing for 4 seasons, and Memphis got it by simply being quieter about it.
media and use their child as a way of gaining sympathy from others. But hey, either way, we're here now. And now we are finding out why Memphis, well, at least I think this is why Memphis has been quiet for a long time. And
that is the fresh take. Memphis is not a different person than Angela. Memphis is Angela with better PR. Memphis is Angela who took the note. Memphis is what happens when the genre's senior class graduates and passes down the lesson plan to the freshmen.
You know, as you can see, please check out Not Without My Daughter movie trailer, also Betty's interview, and also another one on YouTube, which is Victims of Immigration Marriage Fraud in Canada. So I like that.
Think about the parallel. Angela flew to Nigeria. Memphis flew to Tunisia. Angela married a younger man. Memphis married a younger man. Angela funded most of the relationship. Memphis funded most of the relationship. Angela accused the younger man of cheating for the visa. Memphis accused the younger man of cheating for the visa. The two arcs run on the same rail, with only minor variations in cast and location. The difference between them is entirely tonal. Angela yelled and got the reputation. Memphis whispered and got the apology.
Let's get up.
Okay, baby.
And Reddit, which has been tracking this kind of pattern for a decade now, did not flip on Memphis the way Reddit flipped on Angela. Memphis stayed sympathetic. Memphis stayed a woman wronged. The same board that would have called her a predator if she had stayed in the marriage and gotten loud about it, called her a survivor when she left the marriage and got quiet about it. That is the franchise's discovery. That is the lesson Memphis taught the production department, and they are now, I promise you, casting for the next Memphis as we speak. Now let's zoom out. Because the reason the Survivor edit works for Memphis and not for Angela is not actually about the two women. It is about the franchise recognizing somewhere in the back half of the before the 90 days era that the buyer is more sympathetic than the seller when the marriage fails, regardless of who actually did what. The seller, Hamza in this case, has the upside. He has the visa, he has the American passport track, he has presumably the ability to stay. He is the one who is benefiting from the failed marriage. Therefore, by an almost mathematical principle of narrative sympathy, he must be the villain, even if he is also, simultaneously, a 26-year-old from Tunisia who got his entire life reorganized by a stranger who found him on an app.
How are we getting home?
Yes,
How are we getting home?
I am go home.
Yeah, how are we gonna get there? Are you gonna drive?
Yes, drive car.
Drive car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hamza is not a saint. I want to be clear. I'm not building you a Hamza redemption arc. Hamza lied. Hamza conducted what appears to be a post-marital affair. Hamza has, by most reports, treated the custody of his daughter with the kind of bureaucratic distance that is its own indictment. That is all on him. But I do want to note, because nobody else is, that Hamza's offenses are the offenses of a man who got what he wanted and then did not want it. Memphis's offenses are the offenses of a woman who curated her reality for the wedding and then demanded authenticity from her husband. Both are moral failures. Neither is more picturesque than the other.
I was shocked when Hamza said that he wanted to push back the wedding. So now I'm even more scared to tell Hamza about me and my ex-husband. But it is really important.
And that is, in my opinion, the single most loaded confessional in the season. Not because of what Memphis says, but because of the camera. Watch where the camera lingers. Watch the lighting. Watch the way the editor cuts it together. That is a woman being framed, literally, as the protagonist of her own downfall. The franchise did not film Angela that way. The franchise filmed Angela like a sitcom. Angela was comic relief. Memphis is tragedy. That is an editorial decision. made somewhere in post-production that completely recast the same material into a different genre. And I bet if you dug, you would find a producer who specifically fought for that choice because someone did. And that someone is, whether they know it or not, the author of Memphis's post-franchise career. To be fair, walk back, Memphis is also genuinely a single mom raising a daughter who is now caught in the middle of an immigration court narrative that will follow her into her teens. That is not a game. That is a child who will someday Google her own custody paperwork. And Memphis, for all the volume, is the one she will live with. Memphis has, in the end, the hardest job in the cast, raising a kid the franchise built a season out of and then stopped calling about. That is a real, quiet, non-Instagrammable form of survival that deserves actual credit. And it's worth naming that Memphis as a nurse is literally trained to manage chaos. You do not survive an ICU shift without learning to triage. You do not make it through charting at 3 a.m. without learning to compartmentalize. Those skills which made her a functional professional are also, I will argue, the skills that made her capable of running the Tunisia plan with this much composure. She was not improvising. She was triage her own life the way she would triage a trauma bay. Identify the bleeding, clamp it, move to the next injury. The post-nup is a clamp. The immigration fraud post is a cramp.
I only have one divorce. One.
ايوه الشيء المهم بالنسبة لي أنا خائف لا أكون مثل صديقك السابق وتتركني.
The divorce was finalized October 28, 2022. Paternity confirmed. Hamza lives in Chicago as of 2024. Not deported. Employed. Quietly rebuilding. Memphis is in Michigan. Quietly rebranding. They will not, I suspect, be back on this franchise together. Hamza has nothing left to contribute to the story. Memphis has, by her careful IG tone, implied she is moving on to the next chapter, the I was a victim who healed arc, which, in 90-day terms, is a 5-figure product line. Hamza bought a passport. Memphis bought a husband. They both overpaid. They both demanded a refund. And the daughter they had in the first act, Matilda's Tunisian cousin, in narrative structure, is the only person on set who did not consent to the transaction at all. The bride and groom both had lives from children to thrift. The child has the inventory. And one day, when the whole thing is distant enough to be told as a story rather than lived as a wound, that child is going to watch her parents' honeymoon footage and realize what we are realizing now, in real time from a couch 2 years later. If you made it this far, you either love me or you're looking for something to yell about in the comments. Either way, like, subscribe, and tell your sister.